Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Rob's Little Blue Book. And this will be the first one we don't have a cocktail for because I ran out of ideas and I don't feel like I need to do it every single time. So if you think of a cocktail that you want to see made or you're curious about or you want to know the history of or anything like that, you all know me. Just ask me and I'll do it. And similarly, if I'm inspired or thinking about a particular cocktail, I'll still show it to you guys. But in the meantime, just making them for the sake of making cocktails didn't seem all that productive to me. So that's the word on that. We are doing pasta al limone tonight, which is a fantastic pasta dish for summer, which is kind of why I picked it. Now, I've made this before a few times. However, it's always been a little the fresh, bright taste has been amazing. It's always had kind of a bitter aftertaste. So I did a little bit of digging, a little bit of research, and I think I've come up with a preparation that takes that into account. So there's a lot of little tricks tonight. This is a really fun recipe to make. It uses some really interesting techniques, and it's super simple to make. So anybody can throw this together. I do want to talk a little bit about, do I want to do ingredients yet? I kind of wanted to talk about cooking with intent first. This was kind of an expansion on people always asking, well, what's your favorite thing to cook? And most of the time it's what I'm cooking for the person that I'm cooking for. Like, my favorite thing is to make something for somebody else. But it's more than that, and it's really tempting to prepare really extravagant, fun things. And there's nothing wrong with that, and that's a really fun thing to do. Do everything like Thomas Keller style and prepare everything meticulously. But really the core of it for me is I like cooking for people for a whole bunch of different reasons. Like, I do comfort food classics for Serena because they make her feel safe. And I do crazy extravagant burgers for my son Finn because he really likes burgers. He went down a YouTube rabbit hole and he really likes doing that and exploring it. I'll make carbonara for Rebecca when she's not feeling great. I made a Rice Krispie Temple the Sun for my daughter Lila for a school project. I make carbs for Penny because it's indulgent and that's a treat. And I even had sort of the hubris or arrogance to cook risotto for Sabrina, who's Italian. But these are all fun things for me to do. It's, I think, one of the things you really want to think about is why you're cooking. So it's not as much about what's your favorite thing to cook, but why are you cooking for the people you can work? And it doesn't need to be something super extravagant. It can be something very, very simple. But if it's prepared with intent and love, it'll make you feel good. It'll make everybody feel good. And that's my little thought of the week, I guess. Something I was thinking about today. So let's get into, what do I have there? And I got a small me today. Anyway, let's get into some of the ingredients for tonight. They're really, really simple. Now, I've done a couple of things in advance. I didn't want to TV time this. I got my keyboard in here. Let me get rid of that. Don't need that tonight. Or my mouse, actually. Okay. I did a couple of things in advance because one of the techniques I'm going to show you guys is, well, let's talk about starch. I know that's kind of weird. We're going to talk about starch for a sec because that's where it really all comes down to. All of these pasta preparations, this one, cacio e pepe, carbonara, pasta alla gricia, Alfredo, they all have that technique of using starch to make thick, creamy sauce. And we've talked about this before. This is why you don't, when you're making this style of dish. Well, I mean, that's a good intention too, Serena. That's totally valid. I make stuff for myself all the time just because I'm hungry, and sometimes it's fast and easy. I mean, often it's a hot dog with cheese whiz on it. Like, I like that. But back to starch. Starch is the preparation for this. And if you go online and look up specifically this recipe, pasta al limone, you'll see it prepared with heavy cream, and you'll see it prepared with eggs and other ingredients. Now, there are no eggs or heavy cream in this dish. And I think the reason you'll see popular recipes on blogs and stuff, including those ingredients, is it makes it much easier to make a creamy sauce. But that's not what the dish is about. Like, this should be a bright, vibrant, fresh tasting dish. It should not have heavy cream or eggs in it. And I think it's partly a technique thing. It might be an American thing. Like, they just like making everything, like they'd puree a Big Mac and put it in this if they thought they could get away with it. But that's not what this dish is about. But I think at the core of it is to make the technique easier, which is why it's really important to learn how to use starch so that you don't have to rely on things like egg yolks and cream. Now, there are lots of amazing dishes, like carbonate has egg yolks in it, and it's amazing. And there are lots of pasta dishes with heavy cream in them that are also fantastic. But not this one, and not dishes like Alfredo or cacio e pepe, for example. Those ingredients don't belong in those dishes. And if you want to make a dish that has a native cream is native to it, I don't know how you want to say it, but if it's a traditional ingredient, go ahead. Those dishes are fantastic. Not this one. So that's why it's important to learn how to use starch. And before, we've always cooked the pasta in just a little bit of water, because you want a very, very starchy pasta water. But there's other ways to do it. And one of the ways is what we're going to do tonight, which is we're going to partially cook the pasta, then we're going to finish it risotto style in a broth, risotto, that I made earlier, which kind of brings me to what I wanted to talk about for that. So I prepared two ingredients, I prepared two things in advance because I didn't want to TV time it, and I'll show you. This is, and this is super simple. This is a lemon broth, and all it was it's a liter of water, about the peels, or the zest peels of one lemon, and I used, since I had to squeeze lemon juice anyway, you can toss in the squeezed lemons into this as well, and you just let it simmer for about half an hour, and you have an amazing, flavorful broth. This also takes some of the bitterness out of the preparation as well. I hope that's my goal. So I have that, and then the other thing I made, which is also very easy, is this. This is a lemon oil. This is really simple. This is 100 milliliters of whatever oil you feel like using. And again, the zest of about one lemon. And you blitz the crap out of it in your food processor or blender or however you want to do that. Let it sit for about half an hour and then strain it. And then you have a lemon oil. I used peanut oil here, but you could use any neutral oil. You could use grapeseed, canola. I wouldn't use olive oil for this. We're going to use olive oil in the preparation anyway, but not like this. So that's that part of it. Okay, so any questions so far? Of course, there's going to be butter and parm. We're going to finish with a little bit of lemon zest. We have olive oil, which we're going to use. But this is actually a really, really straightforward dish. So I'm going to start the water and watch your questions while we get going. I also think this is probably going to be one of the faster streams because we're not spending 10 minutes making a cocktail. And this is also a very simple dish. And we don't have any questions. Okay, well, that's fair, right? This is, I mean, there really shouldn't be questions. This is actually pretty simple. But there will be questions, I think, when we get into the technique of it. So I have my very old copper pot here, which actually, now that I'm looking at it, needs to be re-tinned. So copper pots are amazing. If I was going to serve it something after this, that's a good question, Rebecca. If this was my, oh, hi Penny. No, there's no cocktail tonight. Let me go back one to Rebecca. I think that this is a nice light start, so you can actually go with. Okay, so it's summer. It kind of depends on where you wanted to go with your meal after that. Like a nice piece of fish would be wonderful after this, but this would also be a nice prep for something heavier, like a piece of beef or something like that. Chicken would also be amazing after this, or Cornish game hen would be fantastic. And then whatever conterna sides you felt like. So shrimp would also be really good. So we have tons of options. This is a really good base to work with. I've also seen this dish prepared with, yeah, I like fish or grilled shrimp. I think that's a good choice. I've seen this dish prepared with some fresh herbs. You can use like a little mint or a little basil, for example. It would be good in this. I'm keeping this simple, just because I want to do the base technique. But sorry, we were talking about copper pots. Copper pots are great, but the old ones, the new ones, of course, aren't tinned because it's really not eco-groovy to tin something. And it's not good for the person doing it either. And unfortunately, the tin on this is, I have to get this re-tinned. I have no idea. There's only a couple of guys left in Toronto who do it, and I don't even know if they still do it, so. Yeah, like a little parsley, maybe? Anyway, throw whatever herbs you feel like in. I'm not going to because I really like the singular flavor of lemon in this dish. But there's lots of things you can pair with it. As always, take some time, make it your own. I'm going to flip back to the main camera because I'm just going to be boiling water. So we've got the pan here. Oh, let's talk about pasta real quick while the water boils. I am going to go back. I wanted to talk about dry pasta. Because one of the things, so this is a really good, this is, I don't remember actually, Rumo, I think, which is one of my favorite brands. And I can hold this up to the camera. You can see that it has a nice, beautiful, rough texture for catching sauce. The other thing, other way you can judge pasta when you're going to the store and you're not sure, maybe you don't know the brands, or you're in Lava's or something, you don't know how to tell if a pasta is good or not. In general, the lighter the color, so one of the important things about artisanal pastas and really good dried pastas is the longer they take to dry it, the better it's going to be. So if the pasta is like that orange color and it's smooth, that means that pasta was first of all run through a silicone, like a Teflon die, not a brass die. So don't. And it also means it was dried very, very fast, which is not good for the pasta. So look for the lighter, in general, the lighter color, the better your pasta. So I'm going to drop this because this is now ready to go. And because I'm not, I don't need to use this pasta water. So I actually have a full pot of water back there. But if we were doing a different preparation or we needed starchy pasta water, in general, just cover the pasta by like half an inch of water, and then keep an eye on it because you don't want your water to boil away depending on how long your pasta takes to cook. But in this particular case, we're going to develop our starch after the pasta is half done. We're going to finish it like a risotto, and we're going to use the lemon broth as our liquid for the risotto, or the pasta that's like risotto. Yeah, and I'll show you guys how to finish it. As I said, this is super straightforward, but it's really delicious. We should put plates in the oven. Another handy thing to have in your kitchen, hey Nick, is, and these are sort of for Asian cooking, but these long chopsticks for cooking are incredibly useful for things like stirring up pasta in water, and just generally being like tongs that don't get hot, moving stuff around. They're really handy, and of course they're really cheap. Yeah, the cocktail tonight is white wine with ice. So Nick, I know you're just joining us. There was no cocktail tonight. You did not miss anything. The dish is pasta al limone, which is super easy to make. It's one of the reasons I like showing you guys, because this is the kind of thing. I mean, making a lemon broth, it sounds fussy, but it's really not. It takes half an hour. You can do it during the day. You can do it the day before. Lemon oil you can make up and just keep on hand. It's great for lots of things to have. So, as I said, that would be like, if you were starting from scratch, that would be a little extra prep time, but I don't feel like it's a lot, you know? So, Any other questions while we wait for the pasta? Let me go back to, actually I don't even need to. We talked about the butter. Yes, I will make fresh pasta. So let's talk about what the stream's gonna, where the direction I'm headed. Yeah, my week was interesting. We'll talk about my week in a second. But I do want to talk about the direction the stream's headed. And one of the reasons I kind of brought up, one of the reasons I like to cook and what I'm cooking is I'm leaning towards more simple presentations for a stream. Italian's really great for that. I love cooking Italian. I'm not a huge fan, like I will do recipes where we have to do the whole time travel thing and prepare things in advance. I'm not against that. But I feel like those recipes really aren't like technique driven. And technique is kind of what I want to show you guys. Like you can go online and get recipes anywhere, and there's a million fantastic recipes out there. But knowing the techniques and how to make them work and how to take a recipe and adapt it, like you would never know if you went on to, you type this recipe, for example, into Google, you're going to get somebody's blog, and you're going to get their life story, what they did when they were a kid, and how much they loved playing Lego while their mom made this dish for them. And eventually you're going to get the recipe. And you're going to get a recipe that has eggs or cream in it, because if they tell you how to, they've gone through their whole life story, but they don't want to explain the technique of cooking with starch and using the starch to thicken, because that's complicated, nobody really understands it. And you're going to learn how to make this dish wrong. You're going to learn to make it with eggs or cream, which you don't want to do. So these are the kinds of things. And this will also allow you to deconstruct recipes that you come across, make them better, make them easier for yourself. Because you could look at a recipe like that and go, oh, well, I don't need to put that in it. I can just do the starch thing. So my week was very interesting. Well, actually, it wasn't interesting. Well, that's part of the problem. For any of you who don't know, I'm thinking about leaving my job, leaving work actually entirely. And the company I work for is incredibly slow, like glacial. And I don't think it's their fault. I mean, it's their fault, but it's just the way it is. So I spent the week kind of waiting to hear. So if I seem a little amped, I'm frustrated and anxious, and I kind of wanted some closure. This wasn't supposed to be a huge long process, and they've gone off in a direction that I didn't want them to. So it's a very long story. You guys can ask me about it in person. I'm happy to explain it to you. But yeah, this is why I'm enjoying tonight and preparing something simple, which is going to be ready in 33 seconds. So let's get this. Okay, so now let's get going. And go back to this camera and this camera. Get this show on the road. I forgot to get the strainer out, so I got to do that. The other reason you always see people say boil pasta in huge pots of water is a lot of the recipes come from restaurants. And a restaurant will have like a giant pot of... So here's the thing. A restaurant will have a giant pot of water going for an entire service. Excuse me. And you kind of want this wet, so I'm going to take a lot of the water with it. We're going to get this on the heat. Now, an important thing here though, guys. I'm going to add a little bit of our broth to get this going. You don't want to touch this pasta, be too rough with it just yet, because while the noodles are soft and limp, if you stir them up, they will break because they're not fully cooked yet. I guess okay, so no, we were talking about actually, that's just gonna annoy everybody. Restaurant pasta. So a restaurant will have a huge pot of water. I did, Rebecca, and I don't need the pasta water. This is the one case where I don't need it. Let me finish the thing about, I'll address that in a second. Let me finish the thing about restaurants will have a huge pot going all the time. They're constantly dumping pasta into. They don't change that water. So that water, if they need starchy pasta water, halfway through service, they have it because they've cooked 27 batches of pasta in it. You don't have that advantage at home. So Rebecca, the reason I dumped the pasta water is we don't need that pasta water tonight because we're going to finish this like a risotto. We're going to build up a really starchy water, and this is a broth, in the pan itself. And having said it's important not to touch it for the first couple of minutes, here I am fiddling with it, but I am being careful. Exactly. Rebecca has nailed it. So yeah, so we're going to build our starch water in the pan itself. I am going to set a timer for this. It should take about another 5 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. And this is one of the reasons I wanted to show you this technique. And we've talked about, let me actually run out of broth here. We've talked about cooking pasta risotto style before, but I don't think we've ever actually done it. So there you go. Here's a new thing. Now I run out of broth here because I don't want this to be overly lemony, and this is a pretty intense lemon broth. I can finish it with water if I have to. But you can see, yeah, this is, I mean, this isn't even al dente. This is just plain half cooked, par cooked, I guess. So. We're just going to move this around. There we go. So now it's starting to loosen up just a little bit, get a little more flexible. Yeah, and this is a fun technique. This is just another, they say there's more than one way to skin a cat, and I'm not going to get into that kind of cuisine, but this is a really handy tool to have in your toolbox. And you can adapt this technique for any pasta recipe you make. If you want to make like an incredibly flavorful, nutty kind of mac and cheese, you can toast your noodles first and then cook them like a risotto. Let them absorb the water as you go. There's nothing wrong with that. That'll be really, really good. Now, there are certain dishes, you gotta be careful with toasting your pasta because it has a very distinct flavor that doesn't suit all dishes. You want to make sure that, I guess any dish you're going to do that for, it has to be a pretty hearty dish, I would think. You don't want to, I would never do it with a delicate dish like this. But if you're going to do it with like a ragu, like you could toast your rigatoni and then top it with a ragu or something. Like, play around, have fun, right? I think so this pasta, by the way, this is spaghetti. Oh, let's talk about the noodles. I'm using spaghetti here, just straight up spaghetti. You could do this with linguine, or spaghettoni would be good. Spaghetti's the smallest noodle that you would want to use for this. Like a vermicelli or anything finer like this, it's not going to stand up to this style of cooking. It's going to turn to mush and just not be good. The other advantage of using, especially with this technique, the other advantage of using a slightly bigger noodle is they take longer to cook. So there's more of a margin for error. You're not going to, like if you did this with an angel hair or vermicelli or something, it's really easy to miss the point of going from al dente to mush, whereas these noodles will have quite a time, just like a 90-second range where they're going to be perfect and they're not going to overcook. This is also just kind of fun to do. It's a very interactive style of cooking spaghetti, not just dumping it in the pot and then pouring it out. And, cooking like this, you'll get a sense of what your food is doing. This is a good way to learn how noodles cook and what the different stages of doneness are, because you're right in it and involved in the whole thing. And partly I was looking for an excuse to use this pot again, or this pan, because I really, really like it. It's a beautiful antique pan, which I'm probably going to invest the money in getting it re-tinned if I can find somebody to do it. I'm sure Pete, my brother Pete, knows a guy for everything. He's the guy who knows the guy. He'll know somebody who can do it for sure. How are we doing on time? We've got a minute to go, but this is not ready. I want to save a little bit. You'll see, I'm going to save a little bit of the broth brodo because I may want to loosen it after it's done. I don't think this is even close to done yet. Oh, hot. Oh, okay. No, we're good. It's great. Perfect. Right on the money. Oh, it's so good already. Wow. So even just with the lemon broth, this is fantastic. All right, any questions about this process before we get into the next little bit of this? Yeah, this is perfect. And as I said, I've given myself a margin for error by using a slightly larger noodle. Do this for yourself, guys. Don't make your life hard. If the first time you make this, choose linguine. Although it is really nice with spaghetti. Spaghetti is my preferred noodle for this dish. Okay. Whoa, done with the heat. The rest of this bit goes done off the heat. If you are not in a rental, don't put a hot pan on your counter like this. But you can see I've done this before in the past. So the first thing here, now, let's get a good slug of olive oil in here. You want to cream this up off the heat. You want to do all of this part off the heat. We got our olive oil going here, and our butter's going to go in. And we're going to start building our, so again, you can see it happening already. The fat is emulsifying right away with the starchy water. It is just going perfectly, actually. Very happy. Okay, so once your fats are melted, I'm going to give this just a couple more stirs here. And you can see it's a little bit creamy, a little bit wet, but that's going to go away when we hit the cheese in. And we can always correct by adding a little bit of broth back into the pan. So let's get some cheese in here, because cheese is amazing. You can grate in as much Parm as you want. I'm going to go for a fair bit, because this stuff is great. Maybe not a huge chunk, though. Eat that. So good. Maybe even a little bit more, right? Can't have too much Parm. And then we're gonna melt our cheese in there, and that's just not enough cheese. But look at that beautiful silky sheen we're getting already. This is also not a dish that needs to be served like piping hot. This one can go to the table at a very moderate temperature. I want some more cheese, I can just tell. Again, you'll get a sense just from the consistency of your dish, whether it has enough cheese in it. And I don't think I'm going to have to add any pasta water. I'm kind of happy with the consistency here. Hope you guys can see this. Yep. So I'm going to let that sit for just 2 seconds while I get plates out of the oven. Ooh, these are hot. Okay. So let's give this, just check for consistency here. Yeah, it looks beautiful. I hope you guys, oh, you can see. It's just, I'm just in love with this consistency already. Again, for serving, plating, we're going to try and get some strands twirled up here. Make ourselves a little tower. I'm probably gonna go with like 2 towers for this one. That's the other nice thing about using spaghetti, gives you kind of like this a slightly elegant presentation, which I kind of like. That's just a huge portion. And we have lost our architectural stability. Oh well. Let me prep this one and get it off to Serena. So again, I'm gonna just, to keep the flavors bright, it's lots of lemon in the dish, but we want just a little bit of lemon zest over the whole thing to give it a really forward lemon note. And of course, a little bit of our lemon oil, which just gets drizzled. Again, this is a super bright flavor, and maybe just give it a little drizzle around the edge. Okay, give me 2 seconds. I'll be right back, and then we'll talk about the other one, or we'll serve it. Okay, any questions as I plate up this other one? When you're twirling like this, you kind of want to get your strands like aligned. Just twirl them into the ladle. But of course, since I'm working from the bottom of the pan, I'm going to have, it's going to be hard to get out. Kind of don't want to leave anybody behind, but I'm going to. Come on, there we go. Okay, I'll dig into that later. That out of the way. Just clean up the rim here a little bit. And then, of course, a little bit of lemon zest. And you don't have to rush this. This, as I said, this doesn't need to be piping hot. You don't want it room temperature, but like tepid is okay. And then a little bit of the olive oil on top, and then I just give it a little drizzle around the edge. Now I gotta find my fork. Okay, guys, there you go. This is pasta al limone. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I love the consistency of the sauce. I really hope it tastes as good as it looks, but I'm pretty confident it does. Cleanse my palate. Not that I've been doing anything but drinking wine. Okay, I gotta say I'm curious. Here we go to the watch Robbie eat part of the show. Wow. So, wow. No pepper. No, wow. For this dish, this is a very singularly flavored dish. This is just, it's literally all about the lemon. You don't want any competing flavors. You just want different, Wow. Okay. You want different layers of lemon. Well, I can go back to the dish. That's the star of the show, isn't it? There we go. So you have we built the lemon flavors. We started with the brodo, and we built a base. We've got the lemon oil as a finisher. And you know what? I guess if I was gonna do anything, maybe, no, I don't know. Maybe more cheese. Maybe just a little more cheese. But maybe not too. So yeah, sorry guys. Really good. Make this one your own. The proportions, and as I said, you saw me grate cheese over it. I eyeball my cheese. You will too. You'll get to know how much cheese you want to put in your dish, because it's your own personal taste, right? So I'm thinking, for me, well, I'm actually kind of torn. The lemon flavor is so clear and so bright and so satisfying. So normally, and especially because if you were serving this dish, you wouldn't be just serving this. You'd be moving on to, like we talked about earlier, maybe some grilled shrimp, or maybe like a Cornish game hen, or a piece of beef, or really so many other things. And this would be an amazing, well, it's not creamy, but not appetizer, I guess, in North American speak. This would be fantastic for that. It tastes great. It's almost like a palate cleanser all on its own. So I don't think it needs more complex flavors. I don't think it needs herbs. It doesn't need parsley. The flavors don't need to be filled out. This is a very focused flavor profile, which I'm a huge fan of. So, okay, I'll stop eating and start answering questions. But wow, this is the best thing I've made in a long time. I'm really happy with this. So I'll show you guys back while we do questions. But like even just the glisten on it, the mouthfeel is incredible too. That's the other thing too. It's very pleasing to eat. Yeah. Don't know what else to say. So there you go, guys. And I totally forgot to put my Star Wars transitions in, so. But I'm okay with it. Straight cut's good sometimes. Okay, well, I'm going to hang around for a couple of minutes. Would it work short tube? I don't think so, Rebecca. I'm comparing it to, because I do carbonara both ways. I do the carbonara with spaghetti, or I'll do it with rotini. Without the eggs to help it cling to the shorter noodle, I don't think it would work. And the other reason to use rigatoni, rigatoni or mezzo rigatoni in carbonara is the tubes capture the guanciale. And of course there's no guanciale in this dish. I think for this one I would just use spaghetti or linguine or something. I think a long noodle is right for this. I don't think I would do, but I don't know, like, there's probably some Italian chef out there who's made an amazing version with a short tube shape, but not me. Honestly, for me, this is probably as good as I've made for myself. I don't think I would change it. And you guys can take it and make it your own, and you can put herbs in it, you can put cheese in it. Also, you could play with the cheeses. I use Parm here, but if you wanted a slightly more aggressive dish, you could use Pecorino. Pecorino would be just fine too, or a mix: Pecorino, Grana Padano, any of those hard cheeses in different quantities would be really, really good. So again, play with it. This is something you can make over and over and over again. It's really good. So, okay, well, not as short as I thought, but definitely on the shorter side. So I want to say thanks again. And we can talk about a little bit about next week if you guys want to do that. As I said, so there's two directions I wanted to go this summer. I love the Italian. It doesn't have to be specifically Italian, but in this particular case, I find that the focus on high quality ingredients, and also, high quality ingredients that I can get. There's amazing cuisines all around the world, and we just so have, because we live in North America, the Italian staples, we can get really, really high quality versions of all of them. We can get fantastic olive oil, we get great butter, we can get fantastic pasta, fresh lemons. So that really works for this. And if we live somewhere else, if I live somewhere else, we might be doing something different. But the other direction I wanted to head to is in the summer, I really like street food, which also suits stream because it's typically prepared sort of at the moment. We've done we did the cheese buldak and stuff like that. So I'm going to start exploring more street food dishes because I think they're really fun for the summer. They're great to make when you have people over. They're typically super simple, and they also lend themselves really well to like entertaining because any street food preparation, you're going to do all your prep, you're going to do your mise and everything, and then you just assemble it over a fire and it's going to be done. So I think that'll be a really great thing to do too. So if you can think of street foods you want to hear or see again, I know we've done in the past, we've done the fish tacos, we did the Kogi street tacos, we did cheese buldak, we did takoyaki, which was fun. So we've done some of them, but there's an infinite number. So if you guys think of anything, just mention it in passing, and we'll put it on the list. So excuse me. That's kind of it, guys. I'm gonna sign off. If there's no more questions, I'll wait like 30 seconds because I know there's a huge delay. Well, a huge-ish delay, and then I'm gonna go finish my pasta. Okay, guys, that's it for me. Thanks for coming. I love doing this for you guys. I just love seeing people in the chat. I love the questions. So I will see everybody in the next few days because I see everybody on the chat in the next few days. So have a great evening, everybody.